All right. So today is a yoga class with the theme of fascia release work. So we are really going to do mostly just routines to open up the tissue, but we will bring in some yogic context to this, which is just awareness on the fact that we are a spiritual being in a physical body. We are not the body, but we are intimately woven into the fibers of this physical experience during this lifetime. The fibers of our body hold memory and patterns and routines. They seem very rigidified, and yet, with the help of all this wonderful new consciousness that's available on the planet now, we can open up, undo a lot of the knots so that we can achieve a greater sense of comfort, ease, and potential within ourselves. We will start with some breathing, but within the context of the breathing, we will be sitting, and I would like you to take two balls. They can be tennis balls, they can be Yamuna balls, and place them just outside of the sit bones. So you will find that place creating a bit of a tractioning outwards and a widening of the pelvis. You want to find a place that you're comfortable, because there's lots of little spots these balls can go. So it's not like one spot has to be it. It's creating a widening and then a base for the bones to sink down more easily. And we will start with something called the 3-phase breathing. We'll be doing Ujjay Breath, which is where you constrict the back of your throat, victory breathing. So if you listen to your own breath, it sounds like the ocean. And we will start by placing our hands at the base, at the top of the pelvis, with the fingers down and the elbows wide, and a nice tall spine. As we breathe, you will feel your hands move a little bit, just spontaneously, because they're responding to the breath, and the position of the hands encourages breathing into the lower lungs. We're going to have a paced breath style. So let's all of us start together, breathing in, Ujjayi breathing. Hold your breath. Breathe out for 6. Hold for 2. So we'll do this again. So you start to get the rhythm, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, breathe in and close your eyes, hold, breathe out, hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Bring your hands to your knees. Keep the palms up. Keep your eyes closed and just notice the sensations in your body. Open your eyes, and moving into the next phase, we bring the thumbs into the armpits, and the hands are parallel to the floor, so they come across the chest. Your elbows are the height of your shoulders. So this time when you breathe, you'll notice that the breath is going in, affecting the hands as well. So the position of the arms encourages breathing into the middle section of the lungs. So here we go, breathing in. Hold, breathe out, hold for 2. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Hold, hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Hold. Last one. Hold, breathe out. Hold. Bring your hands to your knees. Allow the breath to settle and observe the changes. For the last segment, let's change the positions of the balls a little bit. So we've been sitting with the balls on the outside of the sit bone. Now you're going to take one ball and place it between the sit bones. So as you can tell, I'm actually sitting on the ball, and this is spreading the center outwards and stimulating your tailbone just a little bit. So this can be intense if you haven't done this before, but we're going to do the last phase like this. It can be very unburdening to the hips. So the last part of this breath, you have the fingers together and you slide them down your back. So the little fingers are touching and the elbows are as high as possible by the ears. So notice that it naturally causes the back to lift. Check that your head is not dipping forward. More important than the elbows close is that the chin is parallel to the floor, and then you do the best you can. So here we go, breathing in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold your breath. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Hold. Last one. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Hold. Hands to the knees, palms up. Let everything settle. Open your eyes. And the next one will be sitting, the next breathing exercise, no balls. We'll be sitting on our heels, and you want to be sure that the big toes are touching. If this is completely uncomfortable for you, you can have your knees further apart. You can put a pillow under the knees. So find another position if this is really uncomfortable. But if you can sit like this is great. Now, this is called Bastrika Breath. This is bellows breath. This is to energize and charge the system and get the prana moving through the body. So we have the hands in a loose fist by the shoulders with the elbows down. And as we breathe in, you stretch the arms up and open the fingers. And then you breathe out and bring the hands down. So we're going to do this powerfully, not Ujjayi breathing, normal breathing, but there is a sound connected with the exhalation. And we will do 15 of those. So here we go. Palms on the knees, eyes closed, let the energy settle. Keep the eyes closed for the next set. Hands in loose fists by your shoulders. The elbows are relaxed by the sides of your body. Before we start the Bastrika breathing, just take one slow, natural breath in. Breathing out. And here we go. In, out, in, out, in, out. Palms up, hands on the knees. Let everything settle. Keep your eyes closed, and last one, loose fist by the sides of your body. Easy, deep breath, no Ujjayi, natural breath. In, out, and here we go. In, out, in, out. Palms up, and just observe your body. So slowly open your eyes, and what we will be doing is rolling up the sides of the spine to separate all the vertebrae, get any kinks and tight spots loosened up. So to do this, I am going to be working with a silver or pearl ball and gold ball, depending upon, so get whichever size ball you want to work with. I am working with a ball that's quite soft, which means there is a certain give. This feels like a more pumped up ball. I have more than one. No, it's my ball. Go figure. So I actually am going to change to a pearl. No, this is not the pearl ball. Funny me. I'm going to work with a silver ball. I like to have a mushy texture to it. So to start, we will start on the right sit bone. And take a moment to feel how the bone is just sinking in and receiving the ball. So you're just stimulating a little bit of like life force in that area, and allowing all the muscles from the hamstrings, muscles from the glutes, muscles from the back, all connecting into that area. And you're just kind of sending a little message there, a little trickle of communication in to start to dissipate that. If you can feel around, there's a sit bone and then there's the tailbone. And we're going to angle just a little bit in towards the tailbone. The ball is big. You want to be sensitive to the tailbone because it's a little small bone that's just floating there. You want to create a stimulation into the tissue that is connecting between the sit bone and the tailbone, and just kind of tap into that a little bit. and stimulate the tailbone to just, again, get a bit of a pulse. In yoga, we want the energy going all the way up and down the spine, and sections of the spine can get rigidified and just stuck. You can start to tap into these parts of your body and find your own energy over time with this very subtle work. From here, start to bring the ball a little bit further up. So you're going, you're probably at the top of the tailbone and now tapping into the side of the sacrum. So I like to lean a little bit to allow the tissue to be tractioned away from the bone and to take a moment to really sink into the bone, and then very slowly tuck your tail. So start to move the pelvis very slightly back and forth to create that tractioning pressure into this area. To keep that pressure and move a little bit further up. So there's possibly a drag into the tissue, lifting the glute slightly, but what we're really doing is wanting to get that sense of stimulating the side of the sacrum, because we're basically running up the whole side of the spinal column, and listen into that area to see if there's just a deadness coming back at you, or if there is kind of a living communication, a sense of living tissue. Sometimes it's quite surprising if you hang out in an area and then suddenly there's like something comes back, like the area is waking up and the nervous system is waking up in that area. Move a little bit further up. I mention this because ultimately the practice is very personalized. When I'm working by myself, sometimes I'll take 10 minutes in an area, just listening in and feeling in. Of course, if it's a group class or an educational program, I'm giving the routine. And there's lots of benefit to that. But once you know the routine, it's nice to go back and find your own rhythm and your own pattern. I can feel the tissue now in my sacrum, the glutes starting to really peel apart and move away to create more space. So again, slight moving of the pelvis up and down. And as I tilt the pelvis, I can feel the higher part of the my back or sacrum area pressing into the ball. And as I press down, it's almost like I'm tractioning into the area. Move a little bit further. So I'm not on the floor yet, but I'm now in the high part of the pelvis. And again, tilting in a bit and then pressing and lengthening the side downwards. And pressing into the ball and then rolling into, now I'm coming up to the waist. So my bottom has come down. I'm going to lift a little bit so I can get more pressure into the ball. And I can feel a certain tightness in the muscles. So feel into your own body, see what's going on. They haven't fully released. I tend to get tightness in my low back. So this is such a lovely routine for me to really get in touch with those muscles and start to figure out what's going on here. Why is there tightness here? Why this kind of resistance? And sometimes when I just spend a bit of time, my whole back relaxes and opens and lengthens. And it's a beautiful feeling to know that you can do this yourself, by yourself, to yourself. From here, moving a little bit further up, so I'm tucking the tail, moving up a bit. There's a point where if the head starts to be heavy, the neck is heavy, you can start to hold it. So there is this slight pulsing movement that you can use where you're lifting up and removing pressure, but also contracting a bit to feel the ball and then pressing down. This is not a relaxing and hanging out on the ball. It's really allowing that deep compression to take place and listening into your body at the same time. What's talking, what's holding, what wants to shift. Can I relax my glutes? Can I relax my legs? Can I relax my arms? What's going on? Lift a little bit, go a bit further up. At this point, I'm shifting into supporting my head. So breathing in, notice that I've lengthened the rib cage and draping down. Lifting a bit, draping down. Oh yes, something just let go. Such a good feeling. Breathing out. So there's also a sense of widening and flattening the back ribs as I do this. Lift and go further. So there's a tractioning. We're moving now into the ribs closer to the shoulder blade. We're in the trapezius muscles and the lats, and of course just the intercostals of the ribs themselves. So there's a lot of layers of muscles that are being played out here, and the ball pressure is just stimulating all of them and stimulating bone to decompress and wake up and not be so rigidified. Oh, lovely work. Lifting, come a little further. So shoulder blades are broad, pressing into the ball and widening the rib cage. So this is the point where we're already coming close into the shoulder blade. And if you bring the elbow in, you can find how the shoulder blade will glide sideways on your back, which you want, and then you can press and stimulate between the spine, which is the muscle on the side of the spine, and the inside of the shoulder blade. So you're widening what's called the rhomboid muscles, which run between the shoulder blades and the spine. Nice pressure into this area. There's more density here because, again, more layers of muscles, one on top of the other, each one with a different function, and of course the bones themselves. I'm going to move back. We're going to move up. I just want to stay in camera here. So from here, lifting and rolling a little bit further down with the body. So now top of the shoulder blade, middle to top of the shoulder blade, most importantly, side of the spine. Breathing in, pressing into the tissue. Into the tissue, lengthening everything out. One more time. And rolling up. So we're coming up close to the neck area and the top. So get the ball cradled into the neck, the top of the rib cage, and just feel into this area. This is crossroads. So many different parts of our body are intersecting here. So you want to feel into the tissue, feel into the neck muscles. They have a lot of stories to tell. See if you can relax into them and allow them to be decompressed. Rolling a little bit further up. So the ball is catching the occipital ridge of basically where the skull, the big kind of ball shape, is connecting into the tiny little sections of the neck. And again, this area can have a lot of story. So if you move your head very gently side to side, see if you can start to soften up some of the grippiness. Just a little bit further, so it's really tractioning the head up, maybe even pulling on your hair a little bit. Lengthen into this section and see if you can relax that deep tension that can accumulate in the neck. And then when you feel ready, take the ball out, lay your head down, and just feel the head, feel the spine, feel the back. Notice what happened. And from here, let's roll up, come on to the other side. Starting out with the ball on the sit bone, allowing the spine and the whole weight of the trunk to sink into that place. If you want to, you can roll around a little bit and familiarize yourself, or notice and check in. Are there any little tight spots? There usually are quite a few of them around here. And also start to feel into the space, because we're on a bigger ball, between the sit bone and the tailbone. Start to feel that there's like about this much space. What's going on in the tissue there? Lots of layers of tissue. What's going on with the tailbone? Sometimes it can be quite sensitive and you didn't even know till you start to kind of check in there. We want to stimulate the side of the tailbone. We want that tissue between the sit bone and the tailbone to be touched and softened and addressed a bit. From there, roll a little bit further. So we're kind of coursing beside or touching the tailbone, but the pressure is more to the side of it into the sacrum. Take some time here. Roll a little bit further down. So now we're starting to get into the side of the sacrum, pressing the glutes out a little bit, just feeling where the tissue is meeting the bone. And the ball is creating a certain delicate traction in there. Can you relax? Can you check and see? Can you mentally bring your attention into the area and allow it to start to soften, or listen in what's going on there? Move a little bit further up, and let's start moving the pelvis a bit back and forth to create more space in this tissue. It can get to be quite tight for people. Roll a little bit further forward. So rolling up towards the high part of the sacrum, the high part of the pelvis. Let the bones sink into the ball. Let the tissue of the glutes start to separate out. Again, breathing in and out. And then roll down. I'm going to move back. So your bottom's just starting to come into the floor. At times, I will shift over into the gold ball here, but not today. So once we're on the floor, we have a different way of connecting with the leverage of our body weight into the ball, allowing that pressure to really talk to the tissue and to the bones to decompress it. Just listening in. What's going on with this lower back? What's going on with the muscles on either side of the spine? What's going on in the waist area? Move a little bit further up, pressing in. Pressing in again. And one more time, pressing in again. Then from here, rolling a little bit further up. Breathing in and lengthening into the ball. So now, waist to rib cage area, touching and softening the bottom ribs. Making sure the stomach is supporting the back and the spine is long. If you're new to this kind of work, you want to work with a soft ball. The floating ribs, low ribs are more vulnerable, and be very sensitive to what you're feeling. Respect your body, listen to your body, get to know your body. It's not some outside force that you're trying to whack into some state. trying to make peace. And then lift, roll a little bit further up. Now in the body of the ribs, how much can you take this rib cage and allow it to become broad without inflating deeply in front? There's a certain amount of front support that you want to sustain as you're putting pressure into the back. So it's not just hanging out on the ball, it's consciously focusing the pressure into the ball to allow deeper changes to happen internally as a result. Really changes in the tissue. Lift and come a little bit further. So now the ball should be close to the shoulder blade areas, again, side of the spine. Broadening the back, spreading the shoulder blade away from the spine, and decongesting an area that can become very stiff and rigid. The area of the bra strap very often becomes immobilized. It doesn't move. It becomes maybe calcified. You can see that very much in older people who no longer have movement in the rib cage, maybe in the arms and in the waist, but not the rib cage. In young children, watch them sometime. They bend all over the place. They're like an accordion that's opening and closing and twisting, and they have so much motion. And to a certain extent, this motion should stay for our lives. We're not designed to just rigidify fully, a little bit less in a child, but the movement is there, and the heart and the lungs are healthier when they have movement. There's more nerve flow. So now we're in the shoulder blade area, upper shoulder blade area. Lift and come a little bit further forward, again, opening up. This top area can, again, be tight. For many people, this is where the spine is curved over, the neck is curved forward, and to a certain extent, become habituated there. And it's not our ideal human anatomy. We want to open up the energy, allow more uprightness to come in naturally, and decongest this area and realign it. So in all the yogic practices, we attempt to sit with a straight spine, because it's like a hose, and a hose that has no kinks in it has the quickest flow of water, and a straight spine allows for the most powerful flow of the nervous system to be going up and down from the sacrum and tail to the brain. Coming further up, coming in towards the neck. Let's roll until we right on the neck. So upper spine, side of the neck. Start to move yourself so the ball is grabbing the top part of the neck and pressing it upwards. And if you take your chin and press in, you can create this beautiful pressure into where the tissue can get very tight and very locked. Most of us have our necks going forward of the body, which means the back of the neck, where the ball is right now, gets very tight, because we still have to look straight, and those muscles get tight and short. So this work right here is stretching the neck out. So you want the ball even a little bit further now, side of the neck, under the bone of the skull, really, catching it and pushing it up. Can be a wonderful, wonderful elongation of the tissue and provide some fabulous length and comfort in the upper body. And then take the ball out, drop your head down, just take a moment and feel what your body feels like. Much more relaxed, much more in touch with the floor. For me, We will do the side. So went up the back, both sides of the back. Now we'll go up the side of the body. Lots and lots of congestion in here. So it can be quite spectacular when we're halfway through. You may be completely off balance because one side will be long and the other side will be short. But we will start, first of all, here's the top of the pelvis. If you feel in your waist, you can feel some bony structure. That's the pelvic area, area. And if you track down, there's a place here where the thigh bone begins. And this bulging bone, part of the bone, is called the greater trochanter. So we will first of all be going from here right down to there. So it's not a very big area, but it's a very wonderful area to connect into. So just get into the top. There's a muscle there called the TFL, tensor fascia latae. It's supposed to be a very important muscle for stabilizing the pelvis. It can be short on one side and create a situation where you have the hips are imbalanced, or one leg is, you're told one leg is shorter or longer. And it may be this, it may be other things, but you want that pressure into the top. And now, can you lift yourself up to create a lovely stretch from the ball, maybe all the way up to the armpit? See if you can lift the ribs up just to get that sense, and then come back down and sink into the ball a little bit more. Possibly get both legs now and lift up again. So lots of tractioning on the right side. Come back down. Sink into the ball a little bit more and just go a little tiny bit forward. And a little tiny bit back. I've just myself experienced a rush of heat, which means the circulation, something in the tissue was really tight, and I just opened it and the circulation and blood flowed in. So you can get lots of different types of sensation when you do this ball work. Tingling, sometimes it can even feel like the tissue is ripping, warmth, a lot of variety of sensation. And it's all changing the texture of the tissue. So from where the ball was, I am rolling down towards the bone of the thigh. Small amount, maybe an inch or two, because the ball is big. And then lifting up again, looking to see if I can get more length. So you're lengthening the whole side of the body, but you're sinking into the ball at the same time to soften right there, and then traction the tissue around and down. In this position, create this length of the ribs away from the hips, and one more time, pressing up. Opening up. Doesn't matter if you can't get your arms straight. It doesn't matter if you can't get very much off the floor. What matters is that you're getting a stretch. We're only looking at our own bodies. We're not trying to be anything specific like anybody else. Ever, ever, ever. You will fail every time. Everybody, as I saw a quote, everybody else is taken. You might as well be yourself. Don't try to be like anybody else. Roll onto the top of that bulging bone, and one more time lifting. Beautiful stretch, lots of separation starting to come in, and very slightly rolling forward and back. Even more length now, lovely. Come back down to the top of the bone. And now, so we come to the top of the pelvis, the ball is rolled up again. Now let's roll all the way towards the waist. So I'm still a little, because the ball is big, I'm a bit into the pelvis, but also into the tissue of my waist. This is an interesting area because the ribs and the hips are very close together. So you really want to get those ribs as pulled up as you possibly can away from the ball. So you separate it, though. This is where the obliques are, and basically the muscles that are on the side of the rib cage. And for most people, this area is very short, and we want to create length. Another rush of heat. So I know I'm opening circulation into the area. Opening up as much as you can, One more time like this. Lifting, lengthening. Now the other trick is to take the bottom leg and lengthen it away. That too is part of what will create length. And moving a little bit forward and back to soften the tissue. And lengthening out. So being careful not to put too much pressure on the ribs, but allowing the ball to sink in and soften all the area there. So going a little bit forward and back, checking into these obliques. What's going on with them? Can they get more elastic? And let's just from here roll a little bit forward. It's a band that gets real tight. Pull those ribs up and see if you can get the ball to sink right into that tight band of tissue there. Opening and lifting the diaphragm away from the ball. And then come off just for a minute. See what you feel like. Oh my goodness. Now I feel like I've got two completely different bodies. No relationship. And bring yourselves up. Ironically, we have a whole band of muscles that runs the front of the body, band of muscles and fascia. The superficial front line, the superficial back line. These are like the front and the back of the body have a huge language, and the side of the body is what starts to weave the front and the back together into relationship. So it can be quite profound how it changes. And when it's connected up, it's wonderful. And for most people, it kind of solidifies as they get older. If you watch people walk, you will see people move from side to side. So their head is bobbing like this as they shift their weight. And that is happening because the sideline of their body is very tight. It's not giving and interacting to allow the shift. There should be really a rotational spiral happening, not a bobbing from side to side. If you look at little kids walking, running, playing, the head is kind of floating on top of the body. It's not seesawing from side to side. So we can all use this sideline and make it work for us. So you start at the top of the pelvis, sink into the ball, take your time getting that length, and then, oh, this side is much tighter. Lifting up to create that traction into the area. Coming back down, again, sinking even further, making sure you're close to the top of the side of the pelvis. And again, lifting up, pulling the ribs away, stretching out. Coming down, and now slightly rolling in and slightly rolling out. Coming back to the center and dragging a little bit further down. So, oh, there we go. Something just released. Sinking into the ball. Side of the pelvis, possibly pressing into the thigh, pressing the thigh down. So we want everything moving that way while the other part is moving that way. It's kind of like the ball is right there, separating these two energies. Opening, oh, something more started to elongate. And down. And rolling a little bit backwards. Little tiny bit forward. So these are micro movements that are kind of sinking into this very tight, dense tissue and starting to restore an elasticity to it. It's supposed to be dense because these are stabilizers for our body. This is not kind of the loose, big movements. It's very tiny microscopic movements that this tissue supports. But within that, it is supposed to still have an elasticity to it. And then from there, press into the greater trochanter and let's lift up again. So we're now pressing the thigh down a little bit, separating the side of the thigh from the pelvis and the waist. Down. And again, a little bit back. Pushing the glute a little bit away so muscles can get glued together with other muscles. It's quite common. And then they kind of work together. It's kind of like if I was to take my two fingers and they get stuck together. So now, you know, when I'm eating, when I'm picking things up, they're always together. They start to be one finger. So the same happens with muscle tissue, and tissue can get stuck to the bone. So at that point, there's still movement, there's still ability, but it's less. And it's the glue gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter the longer it gets glued together. So just rolling in a little bit and bringing yourselves back up to the top of the pelvis. And now lengthen the ribs and go a little bit further. So now we're ribs sinking into the waist. Let's start out draping out this way. So there's pressure into the pelvis, pressure into the waist area. The ribs are beyond the ball. Slowly lifting up, creating this nice separation between the ribs and the pelvis. Pulling the ribs out and rolling a little bit deeper up into the waist area. Lots and lots goes on here. Seeing if you can keep your ribs pulled away from the ball. Roll a little bit forward. And a little bit back. Constantly thinking, how can I get my ribs further away from my pelvis? Lifting up, making space, and we're going to go into that dense tissue. Here's the side, just in front a little bit. Maybe you don't have dense tissue. Doesn't have to be an accurate description, but just a little bit forward. Can you pull the ribs away from the pelvis and sink into that area? So going sort of in the direction of our belly, sort of, but not quite. We're on the outskirts of it, just kind of corralling the tissue into the midline. And then roll off, intense, and lie on your back. And see what you feel like. Definitely feel so much more spacious. It always amazes me. Bring yourselves back up. And we'll keep on going up the sideline. We're going now from the ribs up towards the armpit. Now, right down here where the bottom ribs are is like the floating rib area. And yes, you can roll on that, but we won't. That's really not for beginners. I want to be sure that area can be more vulnerable. So we don't want to go there until we have a bit more experience with balls. We want to go into the bra line area. It's a bit higher where there's full on ribs, and these ribs connect back to front. They're not floating out in space. Take your ball and press into the side there. So you're sinking into it. You can have your head draped over. This will be more intense. This will be less intense. Just find that place that your ribs can take the pressure of the balls. And let's take a breath in. When you breathe in, think of the armpit going up and the ribs going into the ball. You're separating. Remember that accordion feeling? And then breathing out, and see if you can imagine the ribs staying nice and wide. Breathing in. So now we're actually stretching the ribs with the breath on the inside and the pressure of the ball on the outside to soften it up. Breathing out. One more time. breathing in, inflating the ribs, pressing them into the ball and swelling everywhere. And breathe out. Be careful not to roll into your breast tissue, but roll a little bit to the front. So you want to be underneath. We're just softening those ribs a bit. And a little tiny bit backwards. So you're pressing into the backside ribs. Back to the middle. Take a moment. Again, remember, if there's sensitive areas for you, take your time on your own. Work into them. It can be 10 minutes that you want to hang out somewhere and really get in touch with what's happening. So as we move up, constantly checking that the armpit and the waist are getting longer and longer. Rolling a little bit forward. Pressing the breast tissue frontally, you could say, and a little bit back. Oh, this is so great. Big breath. Breathing out, sinking even further. Oh, yes. And then coming all the way up with the ball. So it's cradling the side ribs into the armpit. Very powerful area. Lots of congestion very often all around here. So you want to think of the ball pushing your armpit higher up, because there's a lot of areas in here that can have adhesions and tightness. Breath in. Sinking into this area of the ball, creating that lovely length. Breath in again, stretching the arm away. Breathing out and now rolling a little bit backwards. And a little bit forward. Back on the side. And if you take your arm, you may be surprised what you discover about the connection in there. Now, let's go just a little bit further. So we're now in the arm. So we're opening and lengthening this arm. If I was there, I would be pulling the arm a bit for you to create even more length in the tissue. Just move the hand around. And roll a little bit back. Turn the hand. And roll a little bit forward. So now we're stimulating the arms, rolling them, lengthening them. Imagine the arm bone really lengthening out of the socket, the ribs lengthening down, everything opening up in here. Such a lovely area. Now, one last time, bring this hand in. So it's going to really lengthen out the tricep and roll. Come on down. Take a moment to check out what's happened to you. So much flatter, so much more open, so much wider. Very often, if I'm in a class with people doing this at the same time, the side that's been rolled out looks 2 inches broader than the side that hasn't been. So we will go to the other side and roll up the left ribs, if is on my side anyway. So bra line, lengthening in, feeling that ball creating a separation of the ribs. Breathing in, opening the ribs, big breath in. Breathing out, softening over the ball. Breathing in. Oh my goodness, tightness here for me. Breathing out. One more time, breathing in and rolling a little bit back. A little bit forward, massaging all of that tissue. Back and forth, opening, closing a bit, and rolling further up. So now just getting again into that sideline. Breath in, imagine those side ribs separating. Breathing out, keeping them separated, but now they're draping in the opposite direction. Breath in, breath out. Inflating the lungs actively to have even more pressure into the ball. Breath out and roll a little forward. And a little back. Oh, yeah, right there. I have a nice tight spot that I'm going to come back to this evening and spend time talking to that part of my body. Why are you holding on? What's your story? Thank you. You can relax now. Moving further up, coming all the way up towards the armpit, lengthening the arm out. Breath in, stretching that arm and that high tissue area. Breathing out. Breathing in, reaching the arm away and rolling a little bit forward and back. Oh, yes. Right up here, if we do any kind of arm work, shoulder work, not computer work, but who knows? If you've been lifting things, you can build up some tightness. If you do weights, you'll feel it. It's a good one to release. If you're a basketball player or volleyball player, anybody who plays ball, they love this routine because they get to be better throwers as a result, because there's so much looseness, they have their full power in their arm freed up. So now moving into the upper arm, rotating the hand around to really feel the tissue and stimulate it. Bending the arm a little bit to see if you can get that sense of how the tricep has to lengthen to allow the bicep to contract. And you may be able to feel the interplay in this position. Roll a little bit backwards and roll the hand and bend it in. I can feel the stretch all the way down to my pelvis. My goodness, I love this. And roll a little bit inwards. And again, rotating the hand. And again, bending in and out. And roll onto your backs. See what you feel like. So flat and open in this body. And then bring yourselves up to a seated position. Same shape we were in at the beginning when we did the breathing, but without the balls. Now just sit for a minute and see what you feel like. See what your shoulder girdle feels like, what your spine feels like, what your back feels like. And let's just finish this practice by bringing our hands together so we're sealing right and left side. We have the spinal column going up the center. Energy has been simulated on both sides. And then we've been broadened out. And just let's have gratitude for the body, for the temple, for our soul, for the fact that we've spring cleaned a little bit and that the body responded and changed and shifted and allowed a softening for us to be fully present in our lives. So take a big breath in. Find a place and space for your own giving thanks for this. Bring your hands up to your forehead or third eye. Bring your hands down to your lips for a kiss. Bring your hands back down to your own heart and bow your head to your heart. May the mind always be the servant of the heart. Lift your head and open your eyes and namaste. I hope you enjoyed releasing your tissue.